Welcome to JK Tells a Story, where real-life dramas unfold. Sit back and enjoy today's tale. Marcus Sullivan sat in his yellow Crown Victoria taxi outside the Manhattan law offices of Blackwood Associates at 7 p.m., watching the office windows glow against the darkening sky. Today was the day he planned to end what he and his wife had once called a marriage. Some husbands don't notice the signs, but Marcus did. Victoria had never worked late before she transferred to Preston Blackwood's corporate law firm 6 months ago. She started dressing differently. Business suits replaced her casual office wear, and she began wearing heels to work. Victoria had always hated heels, only tolerating them at weddings or special occasions. Marcus loved seeing her dressed up on those rare intimate evenings, but she'd never worn heels to the office before. "Why the heels, honey? Something special happening today?" he'd asked one morning as she prepared to catch the subway from their Queens apartment. She paused at the door, not turning around. "I have a meeting with Preston today. Just want to look professional." Marcus didn't respond, though he thought professional might not be the right word. He kept his suspicions to himself and watched. At first, it was just an hour here and there. Then 2 or 3 hours several evenings a week. When the girls' nights out started, Marcus knew something was wrong. Victoria hated clubs and bars. Her idea of fun was dinner at a neighborhood restaurant or coffee at their local cafe. She didn't drink and looked down on those who did. He followed her to the third girls' night and watched her cab pull up to a brownstone on the Upper East Side, Preston Blackwood's house. Marcus had driven a passenger there once and remembered the address. He waited an hour in his taxi, then got out and let the air out of all 4 tires of her rental car and drove home. She never mentioned the tires, but he heard her telling their 17-year-old daughter Samantha the next morning, "Sam, you wouldn't believe it. Someone flattened my tires last night." "No way. Are you serious?" Sam asked over her cereal. "Yeah, thank God they didn't slash them. Just let the air out. I was able to use that portable pump your dad keeps in the trunk for emergencies." "Where were you?" "Just at a dance club in Manhattan with some friends from work." "Maybe you should avoid that area." Victoria smiled. "Sure, baby." That's when Marcus contacted a divorce attorney. That's why he sat waiting now. Victoria was supposed to be served with papers this evening. He thought about their 21 years together. They'd been good years, producing Sam, who was the light of his life. He'd met Victoria when he needed legal help with a contract dispute with his taxi medallion financing company. She was a paralegal then, ambitious and smart. They dated 2 years before he proposed, and he thought they were happy right up until she started working for Preston Blackwood. Marcus drove taxi in Manhattan, working long shifts that often stretched into the night. The unpredictable schedule meant he was sometimes home during the day when Victoria expected him to be working, and sometimes out all night when she thought he'd be home. They'd made it work for 2 decades. The whole family took trips when he could afford time off, usually to the Jersey Shore or upstate to the Finger Lakes. Victoria and Sam sometimes took weekend trips to the Hamptons or Connecticut when his schedule was particularly demanding. The shock of Victoria's betrayal cut deep. She'd grown distant, and her attitude had turned cold. He remembered their last real conversation. "Honey, why don't we have dinner and catch a movie? I'm taking Saturday night off, and I want to spend time with you. You know, I meet the girls on Friday nights now. They count on me to be their designated driver. Let them take an Uber for one night. With my night shifts and your girls' nights, I barely see you. Well, if you had a real job with regular hours instead of driving around the city all hours of the day and night, maybe you'd see me more. But you don't, and I've dealt with it for 2 decades. Deal with it." She walked out without saying goodbye. Marcus was speechless. He followed her to the building's parking garage and watched her drive away. He grabbed his keys, got in his cab, and followed her through Queens traffic. He caught up as she merged onto the Queensboro Bridge and trailed her straight to Preston's Upper East Side brownstone. He avoided her the rest of that weekend and called a lawyer Monday morning. He wasn't looking for a battle. He just wanted their marriage to end quietly. Through her words and actions, she'd made it clear she didn't want him anymore. He told Sam about it that Monday. She's having an affair, Pumpkin. You might not have noticed the changes these past few months, but I have. No way, Dad. I don't believe it, Sam said. I followed her to his house. She said she was going out with friends, but she went straight to her boss's place. But her tires were flat at the club. No, honey, I did that. I flattened them outside her boyfriend's house when I realized she wasn't going to any club. I just can't believe it, Dad. Me neither, but it's true. Sam sat beside him now in the passenger seat of his taxi, waiting for what would inevitably unfold. Are you really sure, Dad? No chance you're wrong. No, Pumpkin. It's over. She broke my trust and tore out my heart. I can't live with this kind of betrayal. What if she had a reason? There's no reason that justifies a long affair. Trust is everything in a relationship. You can never love someone you can't trust. Sam looked out the window and saw two men approaching the cab. What an idiot, Victoria said, looking out the window of the law office. She stood close to Preston, grateful for the tinted windows. I can't believe he thought he'd catch me off guard. There had been no romance in their relationship. It was passion driven by ambition and mutual need. It had taken Preston 6 months to win Victoria over, grooming her to replace his ex-wife, whose divorce had just been finalized after 19 years of marriage. Preston was tired of his ex-wife's complaints, her weight gain, her lack of desire. He was embarrassed to be seen with her, and when his twins left for college, he finally broke free. Victoria was the same age as his ex-wife but more polished. She had the figure of a woman half her age and was strikingly beautiful. Preston had already upgraded her wardrobe, and she would make an excellent executive's wife. A knock on the taxi window made Marcus jump. Are you Marcus Sullivan? Rolling down the window, he nodded. Yes. You've been served. Please read the documents carefully. There's a restraining order requiring you to stay 100 yards away from Victoria Sullivan, Samantha Sullivan, and your family residence. What? Sam snatched the envelope and read the heading. Finding the restraining order, she handed it to him. What the hell? He shouted. Oh God, no, Sam whispered. Dad, I swear I didn't know about this. What are you talking about? He read through the papers. The documentation laid out several allegations. Spousal abuse, child abuse, inappropriate conduct with a minor. Sam, why? Dad, I swear I had nothing to do with this. This is a lie. Wait, how did she know I'd be here right now? Because I told her, his daughter said quietly. Those words broke his heart. When you told me she was cheating, I confronted her. She told me she only did it because she'd received a private investigator's report saying you were cheating on her. You can't be serious. Have you seen this report? No. You believed her over me? Did you help her set me up? Baby, why? I love you so much. Why did you do this to me? I asked you not to say anything. I swear, Dad, I didn't know about the restraining order or these abuse claims. I never said anything like that to anyone. He began crying quietly, not looking at her. A moment later, he said, You have to leave now, Sam. I can't be within 100 yards of you anymore. Dad, no, she screamed. Go or I might get arrested. The sheriff is still here watching. Reading further, he said, Oh my God. They've also frozen all my taxi accounts and medallion assets. What am I supposed to do now? Congratulations, you both destroyed me. I can't even afford to fight her law firm with all these false claims. I'll fix everything, Daddy, she said, getting out of the taxi and heading toward the office building. Preston and Victoria were finishing their encounter when Sam burst into the office. Victoria screamed. I should have had the advantage, Victoria said, straightening her dress. I should have struck first. Now he can't enter the apartment or access our money. I have the upper hand. He didn't cheat, did he? Sam asked, approaching them. Of course not. Who needs him? Victoria said with a laugh. You're a monster, Sam said and struck her mother across the face. Victoria collapsed in shock and pain. Preston laughed. Nice shot, girl. Sam looked around the office, at the bookshelves, the papers, the disheveled desk. Disgusted, she swept everything off the table. Looking at Preston, she said calmly, You better never cross paths with me again. I can and will hurt you. Then she left. Sam, wait, Victoria screamed. That little brat will pay for this? Preston said on her way out. Sam passed a man with an envelope who asked, Are you Victoria Sullivan? Yes, she said and rushed away. Both Victoria and Preston laughed when they realized she'd been served with Marcus's divorce petition. Sam desperately tried to reach her father, but he couldn't risk talking to her. He was afraid Victoria would find out and send police after him for violating the restraining order. Victoria had already turned their friends against him, and only his parents and brother believed his innocence. His sister-in-law kept her children away from him, just in case the allegations were true. This nearly ended her marriage to his brother before George forced Sam to tell her the truth. He couldn't understand what he'd done to deserve such hatred from Victoria and betrayal from his daughter. Even if Sam hadn't known about the abuse charges, she'd still told her mother about the affair and when the papers would be served. Sam tried to find someone to help her father. She found a copy of her mother's divorce papers and saw the lawyer worked in her mother's office, making it impossible to approach him. She called her grandfather. Grandpa Frank, we have to help Dad. I don't know who to turn to. I can't believe what you did to your father, Sam. What were you thinking? Helping your mother? Grandpa, this is all lies. I didn't do anything. It's all Mom and her corporate lawyer. I swear I didn't blame him for any of this. I had no idea that when I confronted her, she'd explode like this. Fine. I'll see what I can do. Is he there? Can I talk to him? He can't have any contact with you until this order is lifted. Every time you call, he starts crying. He's afraid your mother will find out and have him arrested. His lawyer says a court date has been set, but nothing can be done until then. Sam cried bitter tears. Grandpa, tell him I love him and miss him. If I see him, I will. Sam hung up and cried for several minutes. When she finally calmed down, she went to her mother's room, pulled her underwear from drawers and new clothes from closets, and threw them down the stairs. She picked up a large pile of clothes, carried them out to the apartment building's courtyard, and threw them in a pile. She laughed when she saw some outfits still had tags on them. Screw you, Mom, she said aloud, then went to the building's maintenance room and found lighter fluid. She poured it on the clothes and lit them with matches, timing it for just before her mother would return home. Victoria's Uber pulled up to see Sam sitting in a lawn chair in the courtyard, roasting marshmallows over a pile of burning clothes. She screamed and ran from the car. What the hell are you doing? Have you gone crazy? No, Mom. I'm completely sane. I decided to make you pay for the fact that my dad can't talk to me. Every day that passes until I talk to him, I'm going to destroy more of your things. You better withdraw this abuse claim ASAP, or more of your stuff will go up in flames. And if you touch me, I'll report your abuse to the authorities and tell them your boyfriend made inappropriate comments to me. Victoria gasped and stammered. Sam, a court date has been set for Monday. The restraining order won't be renewed. It was only temporary. Don't worry, Mom. Until I talk to him, things will turn to smoke. Victoria shouted and entered the building. She tried calling Marcus, but of course he didn't answer and deleted the message without listening. A fire truck and police car soon arrived. A neighbor had reported the fire. A policeman and firefighter approached Sam. What's all this about, young lady? The officer asked. My mother wanted to get rid of clothes she'd outgrown. She told me to burn them. You can't have an open fire in the courtyard. Is your mother home? Yes, sir. I'll put it out with the hose. The firefighter spoke up. Did you use anything to light it? Or just set the clothes on fire? A whole can of lighter fluid, she said proudly. There's no water connection here. We have sand. I'll put it out, the fireman said. While the fireman dealt with the fire, the policeman went upstairs. Victoria opened the door, ready to confront her daughter but realizing it was police. We'll put out the fire, no big deal, Victoria said before he could speak. The firefighters are handling it now, ma'am. Did you know it's against city ordinance to have an uncontrolled fire in residential areas? No, I didn't know, she said through clenched teeth. Here's your citation. You just need to pay, no court appearance required. Next time, ma'am, just donate unwanted clothes to charity. People could use them. He tipped his hat and left. Victoria's lawyer appeared before a judge Monday morning for the restraining order hearing. He didn't attempt to renew it, knowing it had been filed under false pretenses. It served its purpose, bought time and ruined Marcus's reputation. Marcus's lawyer filed a motion to charge Victoria with perjury. The judge said, without conclusive evidence that the order was filed under false pretenses, there's no perjury. You may pursue this in your divorce counterclaim, but you know there's no real prospect of success. The fact that the restraining order was lifted gave little comfort to Marcus, who was in a terrible state of depression. His life was falling apart. He couldn't cope with the false accusations, frozen assets, his wife's betrayal, and worst of all, what he felt was his daughter's betrayal. He barely ate, couldn't work his taxi shifts properly, drank too much and was miserable. He went to his apartment one afternoon when he knew Victoria and Sam wouldn't be there. She'd changed the locks, but the building superintendent let him in to collect his belongings. He found all his things packed in boxes in the bedroom. She'd left him the wedding album and all the family photographs that once hung throughout the apartment. He stayed in touch with his parents and brother, but the relationships were strained. His parents begged him to see a therapist, but he refused. He felt he didn't need a psychiatrist to tell him his life was ruined. Victoria's law firm waged a merciless campaign. They even told the taxi commission about the restraining order and abuse allegations, and Marcus lost his hack license temporarily due to the pending charges. In a better state of mind, he would have known he could fight this and likely win, but at that moment he simply couldn't function. Nobody knew where Marcus lived. He rented a small studio in the Bronx and communicated with his family only by phone. The only time anyone saw him was at mandatory court appearances for his divorce, and he refused to talk to anyone except his lawyer and the judge. Sam tried to talk to him on these occasions and cried every time he passed her without looking. She thought he looked like the Walking Dead. Victoria was happy with how things were progressing. She'd begun resenting Marcus months before Preston turned her against him, and during the seduction, she'd almost come to hate her husband. After months of legal battles, the divorce was finalized. Marcus got some assets back. His lawyer managed to get him a small settlement and he kept his taxi medallion. He couldn't find steady work because of false rumors circulating in Queens that he was abusing his daughter. No one cared that he'd never been convicted of anything. He decided to move to Philadelphia, where he found work with a cab company. He put all his belongings in a U-Haul and was saying goodbye to his parents when Sam pulled up. "Dad, I'm so sorry. None of this should have happened," she said, running to hug him. He cried but didn't hug her back. "You chose your mother over me without any evidence. Because you went to her, the first domino fell. I'm just a taxi driver, and I had to have the element of surprise against that law firm. I had to file first so she couldn't retaliate. Now you understand why. Daddy, I didn't know. I'm sorry. I'm leaving now. This false accusation of child abuse won't go away. Once you're accused of something like that, it's a stain you can't wash off. Someday your mother and her lover will pay for this. Goodbye, Samantha. I loved you more than my own life. I did everything I could to give you a good life. I just hope you don't grow up like your mother." She burst into tears as her grandmother hugged her, giving Marcus the chance to get in his truck and drive away. "Victoria, will you marry me?" Preston asked the day the divorce was finalized. Yes. She began crying and jumped up to hug him, causing a small scene in the restaurant. Let's go to your house and celebrate. She loved his Upper East Side brownstone and couldn't wait to move in and redecorate it, getting rid of the furniture his ex-wife had chosen. Their bedroom set would be the first priority. Preston laughed as they walked out and saw his ex-wife, Carol, having dinner with her parents at another table. Carol was disgusted with him and his latest mistress. She spat in their direction as they passed, but he didn't even notice. Marcus walked into the Philadelphia taxi garage and saw his colleague Benny Rodriguez standing by the dispatch board. Marcus, what's wrong, man? You look like someone stole your lunch. Divorce finalized today. Ah, well, after what that witch did to you, you should celebrate tonight. It's not her, it's my daughter. She took her side, and I just can't deal with it. She calls and emails, but I can't bring myself to talk to her. Maybe you should see someone about this. Maybe you should blow off some steam, a voice said from behind them. Hello, Claire, Benny said. Who needs my dried-up old what? Marcus said. Claire Donovan, who worked in the taxi company's office, leaned over and whispered in his ear, then walked away. Both men shook their heads as she walked away. Go for it, Marcus. She's a good woman. What the hell, why not? Marcus answered. On their first date, Marcus took Claire to dinner in Philadelphia's Italian market and then to a movie. After the film, they went to a coffee shop for dessert. Marcus, you need to keep your chin up. You're a good guy who's had some bad luck. Everything will work out, she said. Maybe, Claire. For a long time, I couldn't understand what I did wrong. I didn't understand why she attacked me so viciously during the divorce. But it's all over now, he said, taking her hand. Look forward, not behind. I'll make it worth your while. He smiled and squeezed her hand. Let's get out of here, shall we? Claire pulled Marcus close for a kiss as she opened her front door. Do you want to see my bedroom? They spent the evening together, finding comfort in each other's company. A week later, a figure dressed in black crept up to the service entrance of a brownstone on the Upper East Side. He smiled when he found the door unlocked, slowly making his way through the house, hoping the floorboards wouldn't creak. He found the room he was looking for, perfectly equipped for what he needed, just as he'd known from the social media photo of his target sitting at this very desk. The closet was behind and to the right of the desk, and the room was dimly lit by only a desk lamp. He opened the closet door and waited. The only concern was if the target approached the closet before sitting at the desk. But the job would still get done, and his perfect alibi would keep him safe. Preston Blackwood walked into his home office and looked at the computer monitor angled on his desk, his back completely turned to the closet behind him. The uninvited guest slowly opened the closet door and stepped out carefully. Preston heard the noise and looked up. The confrontation was brief and final. A note was left on the table, price paid in full. Victoria returned home from shopping and walked to Preston's office to show him the new bedding she'd bought. She screamed when she found him slumped in his chair. She took her cell phone from her purse, called 911, and reported the incident. She saw the gun in his hand and a note on the table. She didn't touch it but read what it said and gasped. No, Marcus, no, she screamed. What have you done? Detective David Jordan received the call and headed to the Upper East Side. When he arrived, he saw a woman crying in the living room and crime scene investigators moving in and out of the office. He scanned the scene and looked at the expensive furnishings. This was clearly money. He looked at the body and saw the gun still clutched in the victim's right hand. He asked one of the first officers on scene, "What do we have?" Apparent self-inflicted gunshot to the head. Victim is Preston Blackwood, corporate lawyer. The fiancée is Victoria Sullivan. She found the body and called 911. Is there a note? Yes, sir. Typed on the computer, not signed. Just one sentence. He handed him a plastic bag with the note. Detective Jordan frowned. Is the fiancée that blonde woman? Yes, sir. Ma'am, do you have any idea what this note means? Detective Jordan asked Victoria. Yes, that means it wasn't suicide. My ex-husband killed him. Preston hated guns. He didn't own one. Why do you think your ex-husband did this? Because he felt Preston took me away from him. Did he know about your relationship? Lowering her eyes in embarrassment, she said, yes. Could there have been anyone else who might have wanted him dead? He was a lawyer, right? I think his ex-wife was very angry about the divorce. He practiced corporate law, clients who rarely see the inside of a courtroom. Okay, ma'am. Where were you this evening? Shopping. You don't think I did it, do you? I don't even know if it was suicide. Could you provide receipts for your purchases, please? Of course, Detective. On a sunny Sunday afternoon, Detective Jordan drove down to Philadelphia to visit Marcus Sullivan. Mr. Sullivan, I'm Detective Jordan from NYPD. I need to ask you a few questions. Of course, Detective. What can I do for you? Where were you last night around 8 p.m.? Working. I was driving taxi in Center City. Got off shift at 9:30. You can check the dispatch logs and GPS records. Where did you start your shift? South Philadelphia. What's happened? Preston Blackwood was found dead last night in an apparent suicide. Apparent? Let's just say there are some inconsistencies. Well, I couldn't have done it from Philadelphia, Marcus said. No, sir. If I have any more questions, I'll call. Is that okay? Of course. Here's my new cell number. The detective left, unhappy about having to drive to Philadelphia to talk to Marcus and then back to verify his alibi with the cab company. He thought about what was bothering him about the suicide. Why would a left-handed person shoot himself with his right hand? Why type the note? Why were there so few gunpowder residue marks on his hand? After the detective left, Marcus sat at his kitchen table. Claire spoke up. What was all that about? Marcus laughed. Would you believe my ex-wife's fiancé committed suicide? No way. Yeah. I hope my alibi checks out. They laughed and clinked beer bottles in a toast. Victoria sat in the front row at the funeral, mourning the man who had so easily taken her from her devoted husband. Tears flowed for the man who had convinced her to launch a devastating attack on a good man so she could have her way. She'd been madly in love with her taxi driver husband until she transferred to work for Preston. Preston had targeted her almost immediately, making snide comments about cab drivers, dismissive remarks about Marcus when he worked night shifts. Does he even have a real career plan? Preston would ask. Driving a taxi at his age? It was too easy for Preston. He planted seeds that she was being held back by Marcus's blue-collar job, and they grew. She couldn't decide whether she was crying for the loss of her fiancé or the loss of her husband and the breakdown of her relationship with her daughter. It was all such a waste. She didn't hear the whispers around her and wouldn't have cared if the room was buzzing. She didn't see the looks Preston's ex-wife and daughters were giving her. They blamed her for his death. You could come to the funeral and pay your respects, Victoria said, approaching her daughter, who was home for the weekend from college. Sam looked at her intently. How dare you suggest I should respect the man who destroyed my father? I wouldn't even call that piece of garbage a man. She slammed the door and took the train back to college in Albany. Detective Jordan sat in a meeting with his boss, discussing the lack of progress in the case. All the suspects' alibis have been verified. Marcus Sullivan's taxi GPS and dispatch records show he worked his entire shift in Philadelphia with no breaks long enough to drive to New York. The cab company confirmed multiple fares during the window. Victoria Sullivan's receipts and security cameras place her at Bloomingdale's, Sephora, and Starbucks during the time of death. Blackwood's ex-wife and daughters were at dinner with her parents and brother in New Jersey. Multiple witnesses. Was there really a family dinner? The commander asked. Yeah, her mother's 70th birthday. I even checked on Sullivan's daughter. She was at SUNY Albany, 3 hours away. Her roommate confirmed she never left campus. Is there any chance it was suicide? It's possible, but it just doesn't feel right to me. Well, with no suspects, no motive, and no concrete evidence it was even a murder, let's close it as suicide. Jordan nodded and left the room, frustrated. 6 months later, Victoria invited Jason Davis to dinner. It was their third date, and they spent the evening together at her apartment. After Jason went home to his place in Midtown, he opened a beer and sat down to check his email at his kitchen table when he was confronted. The encounter ended fatally. A gun was placed in his hand, and the same note was left, price paid in full. Detective Jordan walked through the apartment and was handed the suicide note before he could speak. Well, damn. Looks like I was right about the first one. Now I just need to find out who the hell is doing this, he told the officer. Any fingerprints, Mark? He asked the technician. Yes, but if I had to guess right now, I'd say they belong to the victim. Any witnesses? Who called police? Jordan asked. A neighbor heard the shot and called 911. No one saw anyone enter or leave. Of course not. How did they get in? No broken locks or windows. It looks like the fire escaped to me. The window wasn't locked. The victim probably wasn't worried since he was on the 4th floor, though it wouldn't be that difficult to climb up. I'd say anyone of fairly average height and good physical condition could make it. Average height for a man or woman? Average man. Tall, athletic woman. Where's this guy's phone? Jordan asked. Bagged here, Mark said. Jordan used his gloved hands to check the last call on the phone. Just had to check. The last call was to Victoria. I'll be shocked if she's not Victoria Sullivan. After the usual condolences, Detective Jordan got to work. Miss Sullivan, why do your boyfriends seem to want to commit suicide? Detective Jordan asked. It must be Marcus. He's punishing me. Where were you last night, ma'am? At home all evening. I have a security system that will confirm this. Tell me about the security system. When it's armed, it detects doors and windows opening. I turned it on when Jason left last night and turned it off this morning when you arrived. Did you turn it off at any time during the night? No. Sam is at college, so it was on all night. Ma'am, it's easy enough to check. So your theory is that your ex-husband is behind these apparent suicides? Yes. Who else could it be? When was the last time you spoke to your ex-husband? Not since the divorce. Did you see him following you? Or did he contact you? No. Then how could he know about your boyfriend? I don't know, but it must be him. Fine. That's all I have for now. Please stay available, he said, turning to leave. Oh, one more question. How tall are you? 5'9" or so. 5'10" in heels. Why do you need this? Just curious. Once again, my condolences. Is it the same note? The chief asked when Jordan returned to the station. Yes, sir, Detective Jordan said. Keep me informed daily of your progress. This is too much of a coincidence. The woman's alibi is solid. I'll see if I can break it, but we'll see. I'm going to visit her ex-husband now. Let me know what you find, the chief said as Detective Jordan left. Marcus and Claire were on his couch watching Netflix when the doorbell rang. Detective Jordan, what can I do for you today? Marcus asked, gesturing for him to come in. Sir, where were you last night around 1:30 a.m.? On my way back from a run to the airport. Got back to the garage at 2:45 a.m. What happened this time? Do you know Jason Davis? Don't think so. He was seeing your ex-wife. Looks like he shot himself last night. No way. Looks like it. Huh? Maybe she's a serial killer, a black widow or something. Maybe. Thank you. If I need anything else, I'll contact you. Marcus laughed as he closed the door. What was all that about? Claire asked. Looks like another of my ex-wife's boyfriends died. Oh God, she breathed, raising her hand to her mouth. Yeah, thank God I have an alibi. I hope whoever's killing these guys keeps choosing times when I'm working long shifts. Marcus's cell phone rang. He looked and saw it was Sam, so he ignored it. Claire frowned. Will you never give her a chance? I don't understand why I should. She misses you. She reached out to me, and we've talked. Relax, honey, she said, pulling him back down. I'm not going to interfere. It's your decision, and you have to live with it. She follows your social media just like you follow hers. She saw me tag you at that cheesesteak place I took you to last month. She follows your posts, and she texted me right away just to see how you were and to tell me she was happy you'd found someone. She told me she'll never stop trying to reach you. She calls me once a week or so, just to chat. She likes hearing about where you've been working, what neighborhoods you're driving in. She was fascinated that I help coordinate your shifts and know your schedule. She said I can always be sure you'll be working when the company needs you, and that stability will help our relationship, unlike your ex-wife. She always wants to know what parts of the city you've seen, what interesting passengers you've had. We talk for hours about the places, people, and things you encounter driving around Philadelphia. Since she was little, when she was a child, you had many late-night shifts that brought you home in the morning. You'd make her breakfast, and you'd eat together while you told her about your night, the passengers, the neighborhoods, the stories. He sighed with pleasant memories. Claire, I love you, but please stay out of this. He hugged her. I'm not getting involved. I'll never drag you into this mess. It's up to you, she said. I told her straight out I wouldn't arrange a meeting between you two. He nodded, hugged her tightly, and turned off the show. I just don't have anything that could place her at the crime scene, Chief. In fact, there's no evidence anyone was at the crime scene. No forced entry, no fingerprints, and no discrepancies in blood spatter patterns. If it weren't for the identical notes, I would have closed them both as suicides. Is the ex-husband's alibi solid? The commander asked. Like Fort Knox. What about Blackwood's ex-wife for revenge? Yeah. She was at a theater in Lincoln Center with her new boyfriend, and her kids were at their prep schools. 2 years later, Victoria broke her pattern and began dating Lance Foster seriously. She'd promised herself she wouldn't risk anyone's life by dating men more than once after the suicides. However, she wasn't celibate. She limited herself to brief encounters with strangers she met at Manhattan bars. A health scare changed her mind, and she needed to take a chance on a real relationship. After a month of dating Lance, she got comfortable, some would say careless. She stopped trying to hide their relationship and began seeing him publicly. Lance was watching a Yankees game at his apartment in Brooklyn when he was confronted. The encounter ended as the others had, with the same note, price paid in full. This is Jordan, he said, answering his cell phone. Hello, detective. This is Detective Stan Anderson from the 88th Precinct in Brooklyn. Do you have an unsolved case that might be related to mine? Which one? Price paid in full suicides. I have two. No way. Any connection to Victoria Sullivan? Yes. She was dating both victims. No way in hell. Your ex-husband's alibi is solid. Yes, he was driving taxi in Philadelphia at the time, Jordan answered. Where was she? Home alone. Security system gave her an alibi last time, and we couldn't break it. Is it the same this time? This time, pizza delivery. She ordered from her landline, and the food arrived within 25 minutes. The incident happened during that time window. According to a neighbor who called 911, it's a 35-minute drive each way from her apartment in Queens to the deceased's place in Brooklyn, plus a 4-flight walk-up. It's tight, but we don't see how she could have done it in that time frame. I agree. Damn it. Let's get together tomorrow and compare files. Fine. Again, all the alibis were solid, and there were no new suspects. The cases remained unsolved. Marcus and Claire sat in the auditorium at SUNY Albany watching Sam as she walked across the stage to receive her bachelor's degree. Marcus beamed with pride and had to wipe away the tear that threatened to roll down his cheek. Claire squeezed his hand tightly and kissed it. After the ceremony, they walked to their car, and Claire asked, Honey, you love her so much. Please call her. No. She made her choice when she sided with her mother instead of me. She only regretted it when she felt bad about what her mother did to me. I needed her to be on my side when I was right, but she didn't believe me and opened the door for her mother to destroy my life. Do you know there are some old friends of mine in Queens who still believe I molested Sam and got away with it? Claire nodded sadly. She made her choice, and we all have to live with it, he finished. Claire frowned at his stubbornness, grabbed his hand, and said, "Were you this stubborn before the divorce?" "No, not even close." 5 years later, Victoria and Sam sat in the front row of the funeral home's memorial room. It was a large turnout for Marcus Sullivan's wake and funeral service. Marcus had died of pancreatic cancer just weeks after he walked Sam down the aisle at her wedding. He had a few new friends and colleagues from the Philadelphia taxi company present, but he hadn't regained a large network of friends after the divorce. Most of his old friends, neighbors, and fellow drivers from Queens came to pay their respects to the good man they'd known and lost touch with over the years. His partner Claire was there. They'd never married. She tried hard not to look at Victoria with contempt for the pain she'd caused her man. His best friend Benny Rodriguez regaled Sam with stories about the last years of her father's life, filling her heart with tales she'd never have known otherwise. It was Claire who'd finally convinced Marcus to listen to Sam and make peace with her when he received his terminal diagnosis. He'd spent years throwing away letters, deleting emails, and ignoring calls. Their reunion was perfectly timed, as he and Claire knew these were his final months. Sam actually rescheduled her wedding day, which cost her a fortune in rush fees, but she got her deepest wish. Her dad walked her down the aisle. Their tearful reunion and walk down the aisle gave Marcus one last moment of joy and peace before he lost his final battle. The last words he spoke were his thanks to Claire for bringing Sam back to him and his apology for never marrying her. She understood and had never pushed him toward marriage. They were happy as they were. Claire told Sam how Marcus had always missed her and regretted not contacting her years earlier. Her mother had asked about it, and Sam told her about some moments from their reconciliation. "He told me he was at my graduation, in the back rows, away from anyone who might recognize him," Sam said. "It's true," Claire confirmed. "I was with him. He said he followed your career as you worked your way up through the NYPD. After you graduated from the police academy, he was so proud when you became a patrol officer, then detective. He kept newspaper clippings when you made detective. You were one of the youngest officers to make rank. He loved it when they said you had an aptitude for investigation, and later when the paper called you a rising star in the department, he almost cried. He said it was because of all those crime shows you watched together, Law, Order, and CSI when you were little. He hoped you'd make it to a major crimes unit someday." Sam smiled through most of the wake, listening to stories about her father's life after the divorce. She was happy to finally meet Claire properly, whom she still spoke to from time to time. His new life seemed as good as it could be under the circumstances. He died a content man, she realized. She said her final prayer after the funeral and thanked God that he'd finally found peace. Victoria tried to reconnect with Sam throughout the wake and funeral, but she ruined everything at the post-service lunch when she made the wrong comment at the wrong time. They were sitting alone after everyone had left when Victoria said, "Sam, I finally found peace too." "What are you talking about, Mom? I haven't been able to have a relationship for the past few years out of fear that your father would harm them." Sam couldn't believe her ears. "He was cleared by the police, you worthless." She stopped herself. "But now you're happy he's gone, so you can have some fun again? I hoped you'd changed, but now I hope you rot in hell." Victoria winced. "You don't understand." Sam cut her off. "The next time I see you, Mom, is when we put your sorry body in the ground. Goodbye, Mom. Good luck with your dating life." This was the last time she spoke to her mother. 10 months later, Victoria was having dinner with her boyfriend Charlie Hernandez at an expensive steakhouse in Midtown when Charlie became serious. "Victoria, these past 8 months have been wonderful for me." Squeezing his hand, she said, "For me too, Charlie. I wasn't sure I'd ever love again, but we found each other. Victoria, I love you. Will you marry me? Victoria took a deep breath. Yes, yes, I will marry you. At that moment, she thought, he's dead. I have nothing to worry about anymore. A week later, Charlie sat on the terrace of his Upper West Side apartment, thinking about his upcoming wedding and Victoria moving in with him. He took a deep drag from his Cuban Monte Cristo cigar and exhaled the smoke toward the Hudson River. As he sighed contentedly, he was confronted by an intruder. The encounter ended as the others had. A gun was placed in his hand, the cigar was placed in the ashtray, and a note was left under the heavy ashtray. Price paid in full. Victoria hung up after speaking with Detective Jordan, her face wet with tears. After the emotional conversation, she went upstairs to her bedroom and retrieved a bottle of sleeping pills she'd kept for emergencies but rarely used. She walked downstairs and went outside to the mailbox on the street, placed an envelope inside, and raised the red flag so the postal worker would know there was outgoing mail. She returned to her apartment, lay down on her bed, and thought about her wedding to Marcus and what a beautiful day it had been in that little church in Queens. She thought about Sam and how proud she was of her daughter's career. She thought about family vacations to the Jersey Shore and trips to Central Park. She regretted ever meeting Preston Blackwood and ruining her own life. Finally, she prayed to see Marcus soon. She placed a note on her chest as she fell into her final sleep. Her note read, "My price has been paid in full." Sam entered her apartment in Astoria with mail and a bag of groceries. She put everything away, hung her keys on the hook, and kicked off her shoes. Her husband Blake wouldn't get home until almost midnight. He was working second shift as an NYPD patrol officer, so she could enjoy the quiet of the apartment. She opened a bottle of New York wine and poured a full glass. After taking a sip, she walked over to the pile of mail and saw a letter. "Holy shit," she whispered when she read the sender's name. Victoria Sullivan. She tore it open and read her mother's final message. Falling into a chair, she tearfully read what her mother's suicide really meant. "Wow, Mom. Wow," she said to the empty apartment. She took her cell phone and called Detective Jordan. "Detective Jordan, this is Sam Sullivan, daughter of Marcus and Victoria Sullivan. Hello, young lady. Sorry to hear about your mother's suicide. Thank you. At least you don't have to investigate another one. Yes, what can I do for you? I received a letter in the mail from my mother. It's a confession." "What?" he shouted into the phone. "It's a confession to all the suicides that were actually murders. Apparently, she was unhinged. I can't believe this. Jesus Christ. Okay. Come meet me at the station as soon as you can. I'm on my way." She took the first page, walked over to her fireplace, set it on fire, and made sure it was completely burned. The letter had said, "My dearest Sam, I give you this final gift of my repentance. Whether you believe it or not, I love you with all my heart, and I apologize for all the pain I caused you. It wasn't intentional, and betraying you and your father was the worst thing I ever did. I knew it had to end when Charlie was killed, and I accept my punishment. I'm sorry I made you punish me this way, and I hope you can now live the rest of your life without the pain of my betrayal of you and your father. Destroy this page and give page 2 to the police. Page 2 is my confession to them. I take full responsibility for everything. It's all my fault, and I can never bring back your lost years without your father and the pain you endured because he believed you'd betrayed him. There have been so many deaths because of me, and it must stop. Maybe this will help with your guilt, and you can finally forgive me and find peace. Please tell my future grandchildren stories of the good times, not stories of how I ruined our lives. I pray that you and Blake have a long and happy marriage. Never fall for someone's manipulation when they try to turn you against each other. I love you with all my heart. Mother. P.S. Please reach out to someone and get the help you desperately need." The tear-stained second page read, "To whom it may concern, by the time you receive this, I will already be dead by my own hand. I can't stand the guilt anymore. I killed all these men, my lovers. They all had to pay a price for taking me from my husband. I always belonged to him. Maybe now I can join him again. May the Lord forgive me. I will always love you, and I'm sorry I ruined our lives. Before Preston, we truly had an ideal family. Victoria. Sam walked into the Manhattan precinct and over to Detective Jordan's desk. After exchanging greetings, she sat down in the chair he offered. After reading the letter, he said, "Lord have mercy, Sam. Forgive me for suspecting you. Yes, I just can't believe it. She must have really lost her mind. Years ago, when I stopped talking to her after what she did to my father, I can't believe she kept dating just to kill them. God, I just don't understand this madness." In a way, it makes sense that it was her. For a couple of the murders, her alibi seemed tight. We just couldn't place her at the crime scenes, and frankly, we didn't have enough solid evidence. I always suspected it was your father or Blackwood's ex-wife, but we couldn't break their alibis either. Well, I'm glad it's all over. The murders, her pain, my suffering. Be careful out there. Take care, detective. Sam walked out of the police station with a smile and shook her head. She stopped, opened her car door, looked up at the Manhattan sky, and said, "Thank you, Mom. I hope you find Dad wherever you are." Thank you for your viewing. See you next time. If you enjoyed this, subscribe to JK Tells a Story for more tales.